50 years ago, my father, a Muslim, took a train just like this. He was fleeing India. All around him, Hindus and Muslims were killing each other. Back in February, the killing started again.
We're travelling northwest from Bombay up to a place called Godhra, which is where 50 pilgrims, Hindu pilgrims, were killed when a train was attacked.
The pilgrims were burned alive. A Muslim mob attacked the train. Revenge followed. Hindu gangs killed hundreds of Muslims throughout the state of Gujarat. In India, extreme Hindu nationalism is on the march. Godhra, close to the border with Pakistan, was a town still in shock. The violence that spread from here stunned the whole of India and was condemned by the national government in Delhi. Everywhere I looked, I could see thousands of Muslim refugees from the countryside. In an abandoned school, I found 500 survivors from the village of Pandavara. 1 in 10 of this state's 50 million people are Muslim. The rest, overwhelmingly Hindu.
This was very peaceful state. Was thrown acid.
Husaina Bibi had only just escaped with her life.
ये कब आपके साथ हुआ?
हमारे घर से लगते ले तो हमारे पास में घर है उनका महिंद्रा वकील का.
There was a mob after her, her and her relatives, and they sought refuge in a Muslim lawyer's house.
इसने पानी भी 2 मटके दिया, पानी हमने 2 मटके पानी.
And the mob managed to surround the house, and they actually climbed on top of the building.
फिर हमको देख गया था हमने किसने किया क्या.
They threw in some acid into the room over her and over some of her friends, and then set fire. So that's how she got her injuries.
मार डालो, काट डालो, ऐसा करो, ऐसा करो. किसी भी जिंदा नहीं निकला ऐसा.
This gentleman was in the room when this attack happened, and this woman, and he tells me that the Hindus were shouting from outside, kill all the Muslims, cut them all down.
The villagers showed me their dead. Across Gujarat, the Indian government says almost 1,000 people have been killed since March, most of them Muslims. I was told that inside the school was a room full of widows. Under Islamic law, widows can't talk to men during the grieving period, but the women wanted to tell their stories to our camera. Fatima Abbas described how a Hindu gang stormed into the village. I saw my own son being killed, she said, and no one helped. Maqsuda also had a story to tell. She described how her husband was shot down with an arrow, then beaten. Finally, the Hindus set his body on fire. The police stood by and watched it all, she said. Nobody helped. I wanted to see what the refugees had fled from. Some of the women agreed to take me to their homes in Pandawara. The road took us through a devastated landscape. Most of this happened in March, but there's still sporadic violence. This was the first time they'd been back to their village since the killings in March.
आपका मकान कौन सा है? ये सर आप.
Alima Ben Karade said she'd lost everything.
This was her house, all the way from here to the corner of the street. It's just rubble. It's been completely demolished.
वो उनके बाप का भाई था. 2 मर्डर मेरे घर के.
She's describing how two men from her family were killed. One was her son, who was roughly my age, and he had 5 kids.
अब हमारे कोई कमाने वाला नहीं है.
And the other one was her husband's brother, her brother-in-law. And she's saying now there's no man, there's no man in the household anymore. There's no breadwinner or provider. They were cut down with swords and then hacked up into pieces. They've just told me that in this field 8 of their relatives were killed.
ना भाग रहे थे वो बचने के लिए वो घाव करे थे ये घाव के नीचे जाने हमारी जान बच जाएगी.
The men folk from her family were surrounded by a mob and they started running across the fields. Just under that tree over there they were caught and eventually all 8 of them were killed. This wasn't mindless violence. The killers had an extremist political agenda that India is for Hindus. The Hindus destroyed all the buildings and then covered them in graffiti to reclaim them. This is graffiti that I found that says Jai Shri Ram, which means Hail Lord Ram, the Hindu god. Nearby, Hindu villagers told me what happened when another mob attacked their Muslim neighbours.
અહીંથી દાડું આવ્યું તો એક 800-900 માથું આવ્યું તો અમને ડર લાગી એટલે અમે ઘરોમાં પહેરી જા ચૂપ.
This woman's a witness. She saw the whole incident happen. She's been telling me that they were Muslims being protected by their Hindu neighbours in this village here. And at 2-3 in the afternoon on the 3rd of March, a mob of 900 arrived. They started burning down the houses, and there's a mosque here as well, which they burnt down. And the Muslims eventually scattered. They ran to try and help themselves. And they scattered across the plain here. Now, a group of 11 women jumped into this well behind me, and 7 of them died. 4 of them were eventually pulled out, but by the Indian people, the Hindus who'd actually been looking after them. Ahmedabad, the state capital of Gujarat, it epitomizes modern India. From high-tech to high fashion, it's all here. India is ruled by a coalition led by the BJP, the Hindu Nationalist Party. What sets Gujarat apart is that the state government is also run by the BJP. The people who voted these one-time political outsiders into power are the new, prosperous middle classes. I've come here to have lunch with a middle-class, quite well-off family, and hopefully they'll be able to tell me why. Vijay Chotawale works in pharmaceuticals. He was appalled by the recent violence. But though he was educated in America, he votes Hindu nationalist. He wants Western prosperity, but fears Western values. Why are the middle classes worried about losing their Hindu identity?
I would say very remarkable phenomenon is happening in middle class. They are becoming more Western in their lifestyle, no doubt about it. They are watching CNN and BBC and World Cup soccer and cricket and wearing Western outfits and maybe drinking and something. But at the same time, they are becoming more and more Orthodox Hindus. It's very peculiar. If you see the number of people going to temples, and they are all in their 30s and 40s.
Going to temple has become central to Ahmedabad's middle classes. What was once a daily lunch for the poor has turned into an opportunity for people to assert their Hindu identities. I'm here at the Jagannath Temple in Ahmedabad. This part of the city saw some of the worst communal riots here recently. I've come to meet a local priest, and I'm going to try and find out exactly what he thinks about it. In this temple, one of the biggest and most popular in Ahmedabad, Politics and religion are becoming bedfellows. I thought the priest, Rami Swardashji, would say Muslims and Hindus needed to get along.
इसके लिए कोई solution है आपके पास?
I was wrong.
अब हमारे पास में क्या है? हमारे पास में तो कोई भी आया हम तो उसको बोले अपना शांति से जीवन बिताओ.
I asked him if he thought there was a solution to some of the ethnic tensions here, and he says that the Muslims who don't want to live here as part of mainstream society, they should be repatriated back to Pakistan. And in fact, he made a big thing out of blaming the government. He says that the government isn't doing its job properly because these people should be picked up and taken back to Pakistan.
That night, I set off for the offices of the World Hindu Council. It raises money from Hindu communities across the world for the nationalist cause. The message is simple: India for the Hindus. Everywhere were pictures of the train attacked by the Muslim mob.
These are the victims of the train massacre in Godhra.
नहीं हाँ प्रोटेक्शन नहीं हिंदुस्तान में रहकर अगर पाकिस्तान से लॉयल्टी रखी तो कतई माफ़ नहीं होगा.
He said that as far as the Muslim population here is concerned, unless they have the same feelings of nationalism as the Hindus have, they're in deep trouble. He said that they should either vanish, or he said the people here would take care of them. People would take justice into their own hands, and you can only guess what would happen then.
Three hours drive out of Ahmedabad, and we're outside the town of Lunawada. I'd arranged to meet Arvind Sisodia, one of the leaders of the World Hindu Council. The council and its parent body, the RSS, had a master plan, he explained.
RSS यहाँ कितनी powerful है? कोई idea मुझे दे?
पावरफुल तो इतनी है कि मानो कि पूरा भारत को हिलाना तो हिला सकते ऐसी है वो.
He tells me that there were 75 countries stretching from Burma all the way over to Iraq that practiced an early form of Hinduism, the foundation for the religion. There were distinct sects that all later on were united in India as Hinduism as we know it today. Now, he says that the job of the RSS is to reclaim these 74 other countries and therefore give birth again to this larger India.
कहीं जब खुद गिर गए हैं, कहीं जल गए हैं तो अंदर सो रहे हैं तो जल गए हैं, बाकी तो किसी ने कोई खुद चाह के नहीं मारा किसी को.
हिंदुओं ने मुसलमानों को जाके नहीं मारा.
हिंदू मारते ही नहीं बेचारे.
I wanted to ask him how he felt about the attacks on Muslims since the incident and the train, and he tells me that there haven't been any attacks, that any Muslim deaths have been purely accidental. Gujarat's most powerful politician is a hero to Hindu nationalists. He is the chief minister, a nationalist politician called Narendra Modi.
Somebody told me that he's going to be speaking here today. This is a peace rally that's been organised.
The Jains are a Hindu sect committed to non-violence. Some wear masks so as to avoid harming even a fly. They were worried that the chief minister and the police had not done enough to prevent the violence. The chief minister argued sometimes violent acts were in reality non-violent. It was a complicated argument and not what the Jains wanted to hear. The chief minister agreed to meet me.
Chief Minister के साथ हमारी appointment है.
Among other things, I wanted to ask him about a report by British officials in India, later leaked to the press. It accused the state government of supporting the violence.
मैंने पहले दिन से कहा है कि मुख्यमंत्री के नाते ये पूरी जिम्मेवारी मेरी है और मैं जिम्मेवारी
The chief minister started by telling me what had happened had caused him great pain.
और मैं साथ साथ ये भी कहता हूँ कि जो हुआ है बहुत दुखद है.
At the time of the riots, there was a report by the British that said that the violence was pre-planned and that it was state-sanctioned. How would you defend yourself against that?
मैं नहीं मानता हूँ इस दुनिया में कोई मूर्ख आदमी भी अपने घर को आग लगाएगा. अगर मैं सरकार में बैठा हूँ, मेरा अपना राज्य चल रहा है, क्या मैं मेरे घर को आग लगाऊंगा? ये लोग वो हैं जो झूठ को प्रचारित करना चाहते हैं.
He says that not even a fool would burn his own house, so why would he do something like that? He believes that this report that was issued by the British was full of lies and conjecture.
Last week, the chief minister resigned, but he's running a caretaker government until elections are held. He expects to gain an increased majority. Yet all over Ahmedabad, there is evidence pointing to the ambiguous role in the violence played by some of those in authority. In a Muslim area of Ahmedabad, I met Father Cedric Prakash, a Jesuit priest.
Many of them have just left this place.
The attackers arrived in trucks, he told me. Witnesses said they sang Hindu chants and that many wore saffron scarves. The saffron flag is a symbol of Hindu nationalism.
Okay, throbbing with people. And now it's still like a graveyard.
They knew which homes to target. They had printouts listing the addresses of Muslim families.
See, one of the things I wanted to show you, see, this house, nothing has happened to this because the Om and the swastik signs were put.
The swastik is an ancient Hindu sign, meaning peace. Father Cedric is convinced the printouts must have been obtained from official sources.
In 1999, there was a very private census instituted by this government of Gujarat. It was directed at the Muslims and at the Christian minorities of the state. The people across the state, those who were Muslims, those who were Christians, were identified. The places of worship, their residences were totally identified.
Gujarat, he said, has become a laboratory for extremist ideology.
Basically, this ideology is fascist. It is one nation, one culture, one race, one religion, upper caste, exactly what Hitler wanted in Nazi Germany. So there's no room, no tolerance for anybody else in this scheme of things.
India's founding father, Mahatma Gandhi, lived in Gujarat. He wanted a tolerant, secular society.
Gandhi would have been heartbroken. Thank God he's dead.
Early one morning, I was taken to a field opposite one of the city's Hindu temples. Men meet like this every morning across the city. They are members of the RSS, the granddaddy of Hindu nationalism. The chief minister himself is a leading light in the organisation. The RSS has a formidable and growing grassroots membership. At the end of their exercises, they pledge their allegiance, not to the Indian flag, but to the saffron flag of Hindu nationalism. I wanted to learn more about how the RSS operated. A message was passed to head office that a British journalist was in town.
This is the Gujarat Headquarters of the RSS. As a Muslim, I'm obviously slightly worried. If these people found out what my real name was, I'd probably be shipped off to Guantanamo Bay.
This is Kutch.
But in fact, Mukund Rao Deo Bunker couldn't have been happier to explain how he was winning hearts and minds.
Seeing the burnt bodies of the people, and so cruelly they have been burned.
He says the press have blown the violence out of proportion.
He says it was a natural reaction that 1,000 people should die here after the incident at Godhra, after having seen those pilgrims being burned alive. He says, look at the case of America after September the 11th. They've razed Afghanistan to the ground. He says these are natural reactions. These are the events that normally happen when people witness such symbolic images of carnage.
He wanted to show me a local contribution to one of the RSS's most ambitious projects. Across India, the RSS have set up schools. They inculcate the pupils with the ideology of Hindu nationalism. The headmaster told me how the pupils were chosen.
I asked him exactly what kind of school this was, and he tells me that they went around the neighbourhood schools and they picked the most intelligent. They took IQ tests in local schools and they picked the most intelligent kids who, apart from going to those schools, also then get special teaching here afterwards as well.
The RSS is planning for the future. They want these youngsters to rise to positions of power. Nearby, in the Muslim refugee camps, another generation of children is growing up.
We're in a camp just on the outskirts of Ahmedabad. This is probably one of the worst looking camps I've seen yet. Conditions are absolutely horrible here.
The forces of modernity can bring great prosperity, but it seems they can also threaten people's sense of who they are, and that can mean the emergence of new and darker identities.
गांधी नगर सिविल ना बोल दिया कि यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं हो सकता, तो बड़ी सिविल लाई है. बड़ी सिविल 3 दिन जेल, फिर इंतकाल हो गया.
A group of 3 men grabbed hold of his dad and they poured kerosene over him and set him on fire. And he ran away. Ashraf ran as far as he could, but he was captured. And one of the men took a cleaver and chopped his fingers off. And he says he can't remember much, but he remembers collapsing in the street, and somehow he was taken to hospital.
As I left, a group of Hindus and Muslims were praying together. They want peace, but they have powerful enemies.